Hey there, how's it going? This is stream number 23 in my series of streams where I'm live programming my own web server in C++. And kind of didn't have enough time to set aside to prepare, so I'm running a little bit behind. So excuse me for a moment while I'm still setting things up in the background. Need to switch the title because it's not correct. And let's do that. Update. All right, should be updated now. So what I think I'll work on tonight is loose ends and refactoring of my JSON library that I started last night and wrote the bulk of it today, and hopefully finish up tonight. So we had 4 things identified, well really 5, but the first 4 of them are here. So let me zoom in a little bit on that. So I found this one off screen. I saw a bug where parsing a floating point number that's just 1e, it needs to fail because there's no exponent, but I believe the bug is it will actually pass when it should fail. So we'll catch that and fix it. And I want to do all of the UTF-8 decoding up front rather than doing it in each individual parsing method like we're doing now, just to be more efficient. And then last time we were streaming, a viewer identified that I have to do some refactoring in the comparison operator because there are quite a bit of code there in a massive switch statement, and each case in the switch is dealing with a different kind of value, so they kind of belong in different functions anyway. And then lastly, I would like to do some pretty printing because it's much easier to look at a configuration file that's been formatted, and right now we're not doing any formatting at all, so it'd be nice to do at least a little bit. So on my to-do list, I had a 5th one, which was to look into using move semantics for large JSON objects, or values rather, just to avoid the cost of making copies. Because one of the changes we did in the last stream was when we are adding elements to an array or an object in JSON, it's actually making a copy now, because before when we were making moves, ran into a problem if you moved an object into itself or you moved the parent of an object into a child, you get a cyclical reference or a crash. So let's start off on this first bug. So if you haven't seen the stream before, there's a link below to the GitHub link. The project's organized as a group of repositories where this top one has a manifest file in it, and the manifest lists all the sub-repositories. I use a tool I wrote called Mugget, which you can use to clone all the repositories and also get the status of all of them. But otherwise, I just use Git, and the viewer last time recommended I try out Git Kraken. And I downloaded that, but I haven't had a chance to run it yet. And I was going to try that now. At least get it running. I also looked into this Tom's obvious minimal language that a viewer recommended, and thought it was pretty good, a bit more than what I need in JSON, but looks solid. And here's an overview, a nice overview if you go to json.org, visually showing you the different kinds of things you can have in a JSON file. I like that, and if you're into reading specs, the IETF RFC for JSON is 7159, and it goes through all the rules in a sort of a hardcore fashion. So let's see what Git Kraken's all about. And let me resize this guy without closing him. He's okay. It's gonna give me issues resizing, isn't it? Whoops. I don't want to. Okay, there we go. There we go. So I don't want to put in my email address. How about if I sign in with GitHub? I don't know if it's going to show my email address, so I'm going to bring that off screen. And no. It wants to log in. That's going to be an issue because I want to use it offline. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave Git cracking for another time. It looked like an awesome graphical interface to Git. But yeah, it looks like it insists on being offline. Well, hold on. What happens if I instead do a open repo? Open a repository. Oops. I don't want to show all my desktop there. Projects. Okay. Oh, okay. So it shows it in the background, but I can't get rid of this guy. Well, I guess it's gonna. I can't get rid of the welcome thing, so I don't want to log in with an email right now. So I guess we'll look at it later. Close that guy. That's my little overlay when I mute. Which I'll do occasionally if I'm talking to other people around. Let's see. So let's get started on that first task, fixing this bug. So I'm going to put it into an existing test I have for bad numbers. So a bad number that I expect is you have 1e. And I'm pretty sure this is going to break. Okay, so we'll run not HTML, JSON test, debug JSON tests. Oh, it passed. Interesting. It shouldn't have passed. But, oh. Maybe it's because it's the last character. I'm gonna step through that and see. It should go to the parse float, right? Parse as a float. E state 6. Huh. Okay, so it's not that it crashes. What I was looking at as I was looking at this, and I thought, well, what if it's not a digit? It'll go to state 8, but I guess state 8 catches it. But that really tells me we don't need two separate states here. Oh, except for if we're stuck in state 7, then it's not valid, right? Okay, maybe I'm wrong about that being a bug. Apologies while I stop and think about this for a minute. This is a state it gets in after the E in 1E. If there's an extra character, right? Yeah, we don't need this extra state. What I can do is just fold these together. And we never set state to 8 anyway. And we'll simply make 7 an acceptable state. like that. As long as that doesn't fail on our fail our tests, I think we can say it wasn't a bug, it was just an unnecessary state. Yeah. So I've been using GitHub desktop lately, but I kind of feel like going back to old school stuff and using Git GUI for the moment. So we really didn't need this test, but it's always okay to add one. So commit message here will be remove unnecessary extra state and parse from parse as floating point. Okay. We'll push that guy. Yeah, so again, all the code that I have is in GitHub, so you should be able to clone it, and that might help if I'm going a little bit too fast sometimes and you're having a little bit of trouble tracking. You'll have a full copy of the code on your end, and you can kind of see what I'm doing, and you should also be able to build and run it. Although I've only been testing on Windows. It should build for Mac and Linux, but I know there are some Mac and Linux specific platform files I haven't fixed after our making changes last week. So anyway, let's go on to the second one. That wasn't a bug. So 1E wasn't a bug, but really just an unnecessary extra state. So let's move on to the second thing. I did an awful lot of UTF-8 decoding in individual functions, where I think it would be a lot more efficient to do it up front, so to speak. That's always in from encoding. Yes. Although I think we'll need two versions of it. One that takes a string and one that takes a Unicode sequence. I think that's what we need because it's called recursively. So let's define that. Basically, it will be two different ones. One that takes the string and another one, it will be a vector of UTF-8 Unicode code point. I'll bring in UTF-8 here. Oops, okay. Do. Actually, I kind of want the bulk. You're right. I want this to take over the main function and the other one to call this one. Because what I want to do is have a UTF-8 decoder and then do return from encoding decoder.decode this guy. Right? So that is for if you from the outermost, and then for all the recursive calls we'll be calling this one. So we can't use find first of or substring. So let's make our own versions of this. So let's do find first not of. And we'll pass in the code points, and then we'll pass in the whitespace characters. And let's pass a direction. And then here we can pass in the other direction. And instead of having a no position, I think what we'll do is we'll make it an index. It goes to size, so if it's equal to the size. And then instead of substring, we can just make use of the constructor, right? We can say encoding.begin plus first, and then begin plus last. I actually didn't notice that before. It says first last. It should just say last plus 1. It should just say last. Why did I say first last and not notice it? And then yeah, we kind of want to run it through the encoder again. Hold on. Or do we want encoding to just capture this? So basically change the type. I'm thinking. What should we say? Let's do the lazy approach where the encoding is code points, and it's only when oh no, then we'll re-encode every time. We really only want it re-encode once, so let's make one here. Oh yeah. So I need to go back and fix that. I really should have UTF-8 encode return a string, not a vector of bytes. Right, so const auto encoding UTF-8 equals that. Let's make this utility while we're here. Yeah, so we're gonna redo that one too. So we'll just make it a set. That's what we'll do. Do we have set included? We do. And size t int direction. Actually, let's just make that forward direction. This method finds the offset of the first code point in the given vector of code points that is not in the given search set. The vector of code points to search. Search set. This is the set of code points for which to this is set code points to skip forward direction. This indicates whether or not to search forward from the front other than backwards from the back. The offset of the first code point that isn't in the given search set is returned. We'll return code points.size. This is returned if all of the code points are in the search set. Okay, so it's pretty simple. We'll have offset, and it depends on the forward direction. If it's forward, it's 0. Otherwise, it is the hold on, we can just say it's 0. That's easier. And then we return the offset. While offset is less than code points.size, we'll say const auto entry equals search set find, and here it'll be, is it forward direction? If so, code points offset. Otherwise it's code points dot size minus offset minus 1. If entry is equal to search set dot end, then break. So these white space characters will change to be a set, a standard set of code points. And let's use list initialization syntax. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to maybe work on. Add list, an initializer list constructor for JSON, because I think that might be really convenient. So let's see, what are the monospace characters? 20, which is space. Tab is 8. Character turn is D. New line is A. And this is true, and this is false. Okay. Okay, so instead of substring, it's this, where it's encoding dot begin plus 1, encoding dot begin plus encoding dot size minus 2. And the same thing here. We just need to change parses object and parses array to take code points. So length becomes size. Okay, the same thing here. It's the same thing with escape or unescape. Then, yeah. We can actually shortcut things by doing this for the strings. Can't I? Oh, no, this I mean. I can do that. There we go. And I can do that thing here too. Right, so let's do these one at a time. So parses, so all of these need to now take code points instead of taking a string. Oh, so this wasn't even safe anyway because it was assuming each character was or each byte was a character. So it's a good idea we did this. Okay, well, to be pedantic, since they're different types, I should do this. Don't really need to, but just trying to make types match. Okay, this is the code point sequence to, and we're going to change all the referencing to parse to decode. Very technical, but that's fine. Given code point sequence. Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop. Bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay, I didn't think there'd be quite so many replacements I'd have to do here. Dun dun doo. Okay, some typecasting while we're here. This might be kind of dumb, but oh well. This I kind of want to break up though. I don't like how that is lined up. How would we do this? And then do that, and then do that. Yeah, I like that better. Same thing here. Oh, we don't do one of those overflow checks on the exponent. Should probably do that. Overflow check on exponent. We don't need to do that kind of thing for the fraction, do we? I suppose we should. We don't want to divide by... Well, what happens if we raise 10 to the power of an extremely large number? I don't think we need to worry about it. It'll end up just adding 0 over and over again, I think. The exponent, though, we should probably check, because that can explode if you just have enough 9s in it. Okay. Decode as, copy from. I think what I want to do is kind of move escape and unescape in with decode as. Why did these need access to the state anyway? Oh, because they're actually setting the type. Okay, never mind. But I do want to rename these. Instead of escape, it's encodestring. This version encodes the hold on. Before I give it a name, I'll make sure I understand where we use it. Yeah, so we would do want UTF-8 out, but we want code points in. Standard vector UTF-8 Unicode code points. So this function encodes the given string. Yeah, well, the string is given as code points. Or how about this function returns the JSON encoding of the given string. Encoded. These are the Unicode code points of the string which needs to be encoded. Yeah, so, did I get that backwards? From encoding. Yeah, so we decode from UTF-8 to code points. Yeah, okay, so I got it right. So we don't need to do this anymore, it's just this. That's all we really need to change, and it'd be the same thing, well, sort of, for unescape becomes decode string. The output, though, is code points. Right, so now we don't need to do this encoding all over the place. We just say output plus equals C, or output dot pushback CP. This is where we're going to get most of our gains. And here again, it's just pushback entry second. And here, It's going to be output pushback. This guy. And output pushback this one. And that's it. This function, okay, how do we word, returns a JSON encoding of the given string. This function decodes the given JSON encoded string what we can really say is this function returns the JSON decoding of the given string. These and this code points. Oh, hold on, no, it is a string. This is the JSON encoded string, which needs to be decoded. To put the decoded code points. String code points. JSON encoding. Okay, there we go. So I don't think we need this encoder anymore, right? We don't need the encoder, and the other function we don't need the decoder. I don't even think we need the do we need the encoder? I guess we do. Yeah, because we're generating a string out of this thing. Yeah, okay. So escape becomes encode string. The string value. Yeah, so we need to encode that. So const, well, utf8 f8 dot decode the string to code points, and then encode it into JSON. Const auto code points. Right. And then the other one's decode string. Oh, and we need to fix up parse's object. This is decode string. Okay, here's where we can remove. Oh, wait a minute, no. We have to convert it back to a string. Hold on, maybe this, I got a little bit confused here. Maybe decode string it is already decoded. Yeah, I think I got this backwards. The output we want is a string. The input is code points. Because then we put it here, and then we don't need to encode, UTF-8 encode everything else. Oh no, we do. Shoot. So we still need I'll just call it encoder. I'll call it UTF-8. That's probably what we should have been calling it before. Oh, so the work I did here is am I doing this right? I'm getting confused. Yeah, because we want them encode string turns it from code points to a string, right? No. Let's put that back for a second. Okay, so maybe I did have it backwards. Hold on. This is so embarrassing. Ultimately, we want a string, right? So encode string will return a string, but the input why am I turning it why am I decoding it only to turn around and encode it? No, I'm not encoding it. We do need to decode it, but we don't need to decode it outside. We can decode it inside. I'm doing yeah, okay, so I guess we use it for both. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Git GUI and undo some of the stuff I just did because I was confused. So encode string. Undo. Well, let's stage the whole thing at first and then unstage some things that I switched when I was confused. We want it to be string in, string out, so unstage that. I don't want to call it decoder encoder. I think I can keep that change and reuse it in both. I wonder why it broke it up that way. Okay. Nope. J that. Okay. Okay, so first let's go through this. Yeah, we'll call this UTF-8. We'll use the same logic to encode and decode since there should be no intermediate bytes that will pass through. So yeah, should be fine. Yeah, this one I couldn't undo without untangling the other thing. Okie doke. So this one can just take the string value again, because it would be redundant to decode and then just to re-encode it again. And let's go fix up these. Parse as object takes code points. These are the Unicode points to parse. Yes, yes. So it's code points dot size. We're gonna have to fix parse value. So do the same thing with parse as array. Okay, so let's fix up parse value. Code points. Oh, we're gonna change parse to decode, right? Decode value. Extracts the encoding and the next JSON value from the string. Oh no, this isn't decoding, is it? It's just finding the positions of things. So it's code points in, code points out. The encoding is in the given. Okay, so we don't need to actually decode here. We can just do this. Decoder. No, not decoder. We don't need this decoder anymore, I think. Code points that begin plus offset. Code points that end. Yeah, and we can return empty vector there. Yeah, so we don't need to do any of this encoding anymore. This was actually wrong before anyway, so we don't need to do that. And it's just this. Hold on. Okay, that's what it was originally. Yeah. So we're changing it all. So we just return that. And return that. Guess we should change this so that this position or codepoints.size. I just don't like using a string position for something that's not a string. Yeah, so with this parse value, we eliminated having to do any UTF-8 encoding or decoding at all. Hello, said Who12. How are you doing? I'm just refactoring some code in my JSON library right now. I kind of messed up and used the word encoding and encode in two different contexts, and so I'm getting a little bit confused. There's JSON encoding and there's UTF-8 encoding. So this is string in, string out. We have the, yeah, so we need a UTF-8 decoder here. Maybe use namespaces? I'd really just like to pick a different name. I like to have a name mean only one thing. So yeah, I think I'm almost through this, and I can kind of put this behind me for a little bit. So it's, oh, how come it didn't accept that? There we go. So yeah, it takes a string, right? No, we want to encode into UTF-8 and then decode the JSON. Yes, so that's a little bit ugly, but I think that what is it not like that? It wants it. Oh crap! All right. I need to fix that. So the output of the UTF-8 encoder right now is a vector of bytes, and I really want a string from that. UTF-8 encoded string. UTF-8 is pretty cool. You can have Greek symbols. Actually, yeah, and that's in one of my unit tests too. Because this is the Greek word, and I don't know how to say it, but there it is. So this is UTF-8 encoding, and this is how you encode it in JSON. Very cool. Yeah, in one of my other tests, I have my new favorite symbol, which is stump of tree, because it's outside of the basic multilingual set. It's like you need more than 16 bits for the code point, and so for JSON it has to be encoded as a UTF-8 or UTF-16 surrogate pair. And someone pointed out to me that pile of poop also needs more than 16 bits, and so it's also a UTF-16 surrogate pair. So yeah, we're having all sorts of fun with encoding today. How come? What am I doing wrong here? I'm missing something here. What am I missing? It takes a vector, code points in, it returns a vector bytes out. Probably because it's confused here. Have you ever seen a 2D path tracer? Nope. Can't say that I have. I'm not sure what that is. Unless you mean like drawing fonts. Like a path isn't a font path or a drawing path? Oh, I see the problem. This is... No, that's not the problem. I'm missing something here. Okay, compiler, help me out. Language feature init statements and if... duh. It's because I had that inside of an if statement. There we go. So if decode string wants a string. Here's where I got into trouble. I need to convert that to a string. So UTF-8 encodestring begin to end. Right. Path tracing is basically what 3D modeling program renderers use to generate realistic images. Just basically traces rays from the camera until you hit a light, and it works backwards from there. Okay. Yeah, I can't say that I've seen a 2D one. Nope. Okay, how come? Oh, I changed this from parse to decode because it's not really just finding its beginning and end. It's actually doing JSON decoding. Okay, I just did a bunch of refactoring, so it should not break any tests, hopefully. And I broke some tests. Awesome. Let's start from the top. So JSON tests line 20. Okay, let's see what happened there. Actually, breaking tests is a good thing. That means your tests are doing their job. Especially when I change my code and I run my tests and they fail, it means I broke something. Okay, so we're going to decode that as UTF-8 first. So, and then pass it into from, so we get a bunch of code points. So there are four code points, which if I could display them as characters should be NULL, right? So maybe it's this one that we just coded up, the find first non-white space character. Or find last, maybe. That's what it was. Okay, that's the bug. It's when you find first from the opposite direction. So yeah, so if we're going in the forward direction, hold on. We want to keep that sentinel value if it's not found. So if offset is less than codepoints.size, return forward direction. If it's forward, it's just the offset. Otherwise, it's again the codepoints.size minus offset minus 1, right? Yes. Else, it's return that special sentinel value. This is the second time I dropped that parentheses. You guys hear that? My cat's yelling at me. I swear I didn't do anything to you. He wants attention, I think. Okay. Got further, but ooh. I have an infinite loop. I love those things. Let's find the infinite loop. Find the infinite loop. I suspect where it is. Yep, I did a dumb thing. I did not advance the offset. Ooh. Neato. What's crashing this time? Okay, how do we get there? Okay, we get the whole object there, and right. So we went from 63 code points down to 60 because why? I think I'm off by 1 there. Yeah, I'm off by 1, not -2, right? -1. I think that's left over from when we were passing in a length. You know, we had to subtract this other 1. Oh, shoot. That wasn't it. Retry. Oh, there's another case, so I didn't hit them all. There's the 3rd case. Okay, so we just have 3 things broken. 199, it thinks that the string is invalid when it shouldn't be. So this is coming back as invalid. Okay, let's go look at that. So actually, I'm just going to inspect it when we hit that breakpoint. Question about unit tests. How do you test the tests? You don't. You don't test the tests. Because that would be too meta. Okay. Well, really, how you test the tests is if the tests are written well enough, they're documenting the requirements. So you test. How do you test requirements are correct? You look at them and you ask yourself, is this what we should expect? Right? Yeah, I know you're joking, but it was an opportunity to talk about the benefits of test-driven development. I couldn't resist. Okay, I'm going to look at that object just to see how screwed up it is. Okay, so there it says it's an array. It's got 3 things in the array, an integer, an invalid, and a boolean. So the integer has what? The value 1. Okay, so our integer got preserved, and our boolean got preserved, but our string didn't parse right. It is broken. Yeah, so let's look at that. Okay. Oh, we don't need to be in that. Okay. So we should actually get down to here where we're parsing it as an array. So I'll just put a breakpoint in there. And here's a good spot. So the first value really it's 3 characters? Oh, yeah, probably it was 3 characters. Let's look. It'll be space 1 space. TDD is cool. How much do you know about it? You want me to give you the spiel? Done it before for a math library. That's the kind of thing that when you learn TDD, it's a good thing to start on. Something it's very easy to write the test for. So yeah, that's space 1 space. So that was correct. How about the next one? 15 characters. Here's where it would be nice to see it in. Actually, we can see it in a memory editor. Debug Windows memory, and we just need to know that address. What's it? Encoded value. Oh, how about we do this? How about we trick it into telling us the address? We'll say the address of the 0th element. There we go. And then I can take that address and paste it up here. Whoa. I guess I could have just typed in that up here in the first place, couldn't I? Okay, it's in there, but they're Unicode code points. So I think, yeah, D is, okay, I think I see the problem. D is that character. Oh, yeah, we haven't stripped the white space off of it. So it's D, it's character turn space, tab space, right? Character turn space, tab space. And then, yeah, bracket, HELLO, and bracket. Okay, so I think it's probably good. What's the size? 15? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, okay, so that is correct. So I guess it's this that we're having trouble with. First non-white space character is index 2, is that right? 0, 1, 2. Oh no, it didn't get tab. So I must have screwed up and not put tab in our list of white space characters. I did, but I don't think it's 8, is it? Isn't it 9? That's the problem. So we broke tab when this used to be a string and I made it into Unicode code points and I didn't get it right. Okay. Now we're down to line 239 of our test. Breakpoints off. 239. That's supposed to come back as invalid because it's not terminated. Really? It came back as a valid object? Let's see what it looks like. Okay. Oh, I forgot to ask. I should ask Rally Monkey, who's my what do you call it? Super user guy, to check. I lowered the bitrate on my stream down from 6 meg to 2 meg. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't sacrifice any quality. I'm hoping that it improved the latency of the stream. Anyway, distracted, getting back on target here. So it is an object. The object has, where is it? Okay, it has array and value. And okay, I think the problem is it didn't parse the array bound correctly. It's good. It's good. Good is good. Let's see how this works. So breakpoint there, and then I'm going to go into from encoding. It's going to go into this one. So when we hit this one, that actually jumped to another test. Okay, so hold on. Hold on. I don't know why I got rid of that breakpoint, but I did. Restart. I got too many arrays. Oh, I really don't want to break there. I want to break parse's object here. Key. Key.impl string value. Okay. Key arrow. Okay, it's value. It's array that I'm worried about. Okay, array. So ooh. How did that happen? This code points is not correct. Oh, okay, I'm past where I needed to hit my breakpoint. Let's try that again. Okay, now there's array and the offset is 21. Let's go into that. What? Why is there still a space? Okay. Oh, right, we didn't chop the white space off quite yet. Okay, there's where we hit the bracket right here. So I want to see which happens first. We see the delimiter, or we get to here. Okay, we saw the delimiter. We should pop it off. Wait a minute, there are two delimiters. Okay, so it hit the bracket, right? Okay, yeah, bracket and then double quote. So we're popping the double quote off, right? Now we're still looking for that bracket. So go again. Okay, it is not empty. Okay, yeah, I changed this. It used to be string no position indicator, and I changed that to be the size because I didn't want to use string no position with vector. So it's this dot size. Yeah. And same thing up here. I need to check that. Hey man, what type of games do I like? Let's see, World of Warcraft. That's why I'm not streaming Tuesday, Thursdays, and I don't know. What does my Steam say? I play bunch of dumb games like Stardew Valley, Moonlighter, Enter the Gungeon, Terraria, Astroneer. I like exploration games. Play World of Warcraft because I actually know the people I play with, and that's more of a social thing, not a gaming thing. Now, if you ask me what kinds of games I write instead of like, it would have to be single player dungeon crawling games. That's what I'm trying to write. I tried to make a clone of Minecraft at one point, but that got really complicated for me. So I kind of ditched that one. Got into that because I was interested in learning 3D graphics, and cloning Minecraft is actually a good thing to try to do if you're learning 3D graphics, because the 3D graphics is very simple, especially if you're copying an older version of Minecraft. Yeah, well, I was very new to 3D graphics, so for me it was between medium and hard. Yeah, I had the most trouble with was the physics engine. I was trying to use Bullet, and I kept tripping over the geometry. Okay, I need to check to make sure I didn't. Let's just look for all the places I use string no position here. Okay, yeah, so there are some places that we're not doing the right thing. And that still is a string. Okay, so this, hopefully that'll fix the bugs. No, we broke more. How did we break more tests? Okay, 181. Sometimes I just have these unlucky nights where I think I'm just being too careless and I keep breaking things. Did you know someone made Minecraft clone all in a shader? I did not know that. Did you guys know that someone made a Minecraft clone all in a shader? With the shader or GPU inside the GPU? Sure, if you have a link to it, go ahead and send and put the link in. Okay, so it is failing on it being an array. It didn't like that that was a... It didn't like that? Okay, I probably messed up on the parse value thing again. Okay. Shader toy. Will this even work? Let's see. New to new window. Actually, I think I have seen this. They even put the music in the game? Okay, I'm impressed. Yeah, it's pretty simplified, right? That's still pretty awesome, I have to admit. Whoop. Let me grab that link and put it in a note. Nifty mine. I'll call this, and now for something completely different. Nifty Minecraft clone in all in a shader. There we go. The world doesn't save? Yeah. That's cool though, I like that. I think I'm gonna have to just run through this code again here. Why it doesn't like that being, why it doesn't parse as an array. I'm gonna feel really dumb when I find out what I did wrong, but that's okay. It's 16 characters long, I assume. Back up here. Yeah, okay. Oh, we don't need to run through the UTF decoder. Oh, it trimmed a character off. I think that's the problem. Yeah, there's no white space, so there's no reason for it to have trimmed that. Oh, wait, no. It's 16 long for the last one is 15. Okay, so that's not the problem. So here we'll see the encoding come back correct. So is this parse array that's not working, I guess? Can't wait until Microsoft lets me step through this junk into my own code. It's supposed to be working on that where you can say for C++, only debug my code. I know they have that for C#, but they don't have that for C++ yet, as far as I know. So this is the 14 characters within the braces. For some reason, this isn't working. Why might it not work? So there's an, okay. That's the 1. Oh. Actually, how did we end up there? So we hit the double quote. Yes, sure. So fine, yeah. 7 characters, right? Yep. So that's the hello in quotes. Comes back as a string. So far, so good. And then the final one is the 4-character true. Oh, wait a minute. It bailed out on us. Okay, I think. Let me retry that. Oh, it is hitting that. This is the string it's parsing, and it does hit that last. So I can't. Okay. So I think it was dumb of me to use this size as a sentinel in the first place. By the way, who's with me? See, I got my 2 kids behind me playing Terraria and Solar 2. So if you hear like background noise, it's probably them. I have this dynamic mic. It's supposed to cut down noise from back and sides, but it's not perfect. I bet it's the Terraria noises that are coming through. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. I think that was it. So let's see. Yeah, so I can't. It's dumb of me to use this. What am I gonna do here? I guess what we'll do is, because an empty string is not a valid JSON value, we will move the detection of empty string down to here. This is returned if the encoded value is in. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Oh, when I step a bit away? Yeah, I guess sometimes I turn my head and I'm not talking directly into the mic. Alright, so I don't need to worry about setting the offset in these cases where we return the empty vector. That actually simplifies that code a bit. And now everywhere where we do parse value, we can basically say if it's empty, if the encoded value is empty, return. I actually kind of like that better. So if encoded key.empty. If encoded value.empty. I'm keyboard challenged today, apparently. Keep typing typos. How close are we to getting this working now? Oh, great, it works. Everyone's keyboard challenged occasionally. Oh, okay, that looks funny because I had a bunch of things I didn't stage right. Let's stage it all. So, this is all refactoring. Why is that there? Oh, yeah, this is all refactoring to minimize the amount of UTF-8 encoding and decoding that we're doing. Refactoring. Reduce the amount of UTF-8 decoding and encoding done during the process of doing JSON decoding. Spent like 2 hours figuring out 2D line normals and it still looks wrong somehow. Well, I don't know about 2D, but one thing I always enjoyed with 3D debugging is when you get a bug it's really amusing to look at, right? Isn't the whole game Goat Simulator all about that? So maybe that's how you can get some enjoyment about your 2 hours, is maybe it was amusing in addition to looking wrong. One can only hope. Although I guess with 2D, it takes a little bit more imagination. So it might be tougher to find bugs amusing there. Oh, why is this showing up as an ad? Oh, because it's an alternative. It's one that takes already UTF-8 decoded code points. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And that'll be useful for the user anyway. Okay, so back to my notebook. We did that. We did all of this. So now it's on to number 3. Overflow check on exponent. Okay, that's an easier one, I hope. Because we have a test for bad numbers. Let me get rid of my breakpoints. Actually, I wonder if I have... let me bring this off screen for a minute. I might still have some pictures of some of my bugs of 3D with the Minecraft stuff. Let me look for that. Where would I have kept that? Just a moment. Just a moment. Where did I... Oh. I think I found it. Screenshots, no. Sorry for the delay. I wanted to find a funny looking bug for when I was doing 3D rendering code debugging. And I can't quite remember where I put it. Just a minute while I give it one more shot to find it. Ah, that's a bummer. It was really funny. I think I was drawing a sheep from Minecraft and like the head was all broken, twisted off or something like that, and I thought it was funny, so I took a screenshot of it. I can't find it now. Shoot, it was really funny too. I'll find it later. If I find it later, I'll show it on stream. I think what I was doing is I was doing the rigging system, and I had the what do you call it? There's like an anchor point for where the bones are supposed to meet with the mesh, or where the mesh is relative to the bone's origin, and they're all the coordinate space was all screwed up, and so it was like drawing the legs like coming out of the head or something weird like that. Okay, so yeah, here we had the bad numbers one. So we have one for an amazingly long mantissa magnitude, but we don't have one for a huge exponent like that. That should definitely give us an error in our test because we don't have a check for it. There we go. It's not detecting that as a bad number. Yeah, so let's do that. I'm going to do the same kind of overflow check that I did for the magnitude and also for integers as well. Where did I put that? That's the integer one. Did I not catch it for magnitude? Did I only catch it for integers? So we really have two problems then, right? We have that problem and we have this problem. Okay, so that means we'll fix it in both places. Here's a little... I'm waiting for my brother, who's better at math than I, to tell me if this is a good enough way to check for overflow. My thought was that if you first cache old magnitude, for example, then multiply by 10 and add the next digit. And the idea is that if you take the new magnitude and divide it by 10, if it's not equal to the old magnitude, then you've overflowed. I just don't know if that's mathematically sound of a check. So we need to do that for the magnitude and for the exponent. Exponent was here. If exponent divided by 10 is not equal to the old exponent. I mean, I'm sure it'll pass our test. I just don't know if it's exactly correct. 2 floating point is wrong. How did I break that? 150? Really? What's the unit test say? Okay, what if I do equal? I think that will tell me a little bit more. Invalid. Okay, I had something wrong. I broke it. Maybe it doesn't work for doubles. It probably doesn't because, yeah, duh. It's not gonna work because this is a double. When we add something, yeah. So before I divide by 10, I need to subtract that again. Shoot. I guess what I can do is I can convert it into a very large integer. Int max t, right? And then I can, before dividing by 10, I can convert it again into int max t. I think that would work. Same thing with exponent. Okay, yeah, that works. We'll keep that for now. So Goblin Army? There's a humorous exchange in the background. Wish I could share it with you guys. Okay, so this is add overflow checks for magnitude and exponent. I actually think this is called mantissa, not magnitude. But it's either way. To an exponent of a floating point. Floating point. Oh, should we take a look at your shader? Give you a shout out, so to speak? Let's take a look. I don't mind. Ooh. Okay, so what can we do with your shader? Is this moving the light sources around? Right, you said you were doing ray casting, right? Uh-oh, I think I broke it. I moved something behind. These are your obstructions, right? So it really shouldn't do that. Are you talking about the grid line? One side it doesn't work. What's the line you said that is wrong somehow? Are you talking about the... Yeah, you're not talking about the grid lines, are you?
Good night, Daddy.
Night. My son's going to bed. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's what you're talking about, right? Well, these 4 are working. It's just the one on the left that's not working. That's still pretty cool, though. I had at one point the desire to start playing around with shaders, and I wanted to make a program like this, but have it run on outside the browser. But maybe I'd never needed to do that because this shader toy looks good enough for what I wanted to do. This is pretty awesome. So why does it go all noisy when I'm dragging a light source? Is that because it's not accumulating until I drop it? Now it's accumulating traces? That's pretty awesome though. So that's said who 12's shader, if anyone wants to play around with it. Okay. Push that. What am I gonna do next? Okay, we're halfway through my plan for tonight. I didn't think it was pretty dumb. I thought it was cool. It'll only get better as you work on it, I'm sure. So we're gonna refactor. Yeah, I wanted to. The viewer last time was telling me how, and I agreed with it. I had this comparison operator here, and I was going good here until I got to these cases. These really need to be broken out into their own functions, so we're gonna do that. Realistic 2D lighting doesn't exist. Well, is it cheating to do 3D lighting, but just have the camera aligned to one of the axes? Isn't that what they do in Unity? Like, what would be the problem with using 3D and just squashing it with the ortho? What do they call it? Ortho projection. Would you call that cheating because they didn't need to do 3D? They should have just done 2D. It would be more efficient, but no one does it. All right. Intersection functions are a bit more costly in 3D. Yeah, because there's an extra coordinate for each vector, which means there's an extra row or column in each matrix, right? I suppose a lot of people do 3D programming or GPU programming. They've got a massive graphics pipeline they can throw things at, and so cost isn't as much of a concern, right? In fact, a lot of 3D graphics is really 4D since you have the W coordinate going on. So I'm going to be refactoring here. So this is comparing array elements. So we're going to copy that out and we're going to shunt it off, I suppose. It can be a free function, right? Let's make a free function. All right, here. Let's see what it needs. So it's going to return a bool, and what is it doing? It's compare JSON arrays. Yeah, it's to, what do they call it? I forget the word, affine or something like that. It's so that you can account for projection. Or no, perspective, right? Perspective. Unless, and then the other place where I know that they use the W coordinate is for rotations using quaternions. Just yelling good night. Didn't want you to get that into the mic. Okay, so compare arrays. Yes. Yeah, on this stream, eventually, maybe in a few months, I might start doing some of that graphics programming again. I was playing around, like I said, with doing a Minecraft clone, and I was doing some 2D stuff by basically doing 3D and just locking the Z coordinate, locking the camera angle and all that. But maybe we'll get into that again at some point. And I want to learn how to do that in WebGL instead of having to do it with OpenGL on Direct3D like I do it now. Imagine having 4 spatial coordinates, though, like game. Four spatial coordinates? Oh, like a hypercube? All the programming that goes into 2D and 3D gaming, you can extend to ND, right? It's just going to be very difficult to depict it on a 2D screen. I suppose it's easier if you do it in VR, right? Because you can take advantage of depth. Okay. We're obviously going to need 2 arrays. And these are, see if I can remember this right. Vector of shared pointers to JSON values. Left-hand side, and then we'll have right-hand side. That's another thing I'd like to get into is VR programming, although I bet that would be very hard to stream. Do they have that, anything like Twitch where you can stream 2 fields and then have a VR headset like an Oculus project them through the headset? Whatever they call it. Head-mounted display. That would actually be pretty awesome if they had 3D streaming. Okay, this is our LHS dot, and this is our HS dot. And this is again LHS dot, and then this whole thing is just LHS. And then this whole thing is RHS. Okay. Well, you know, all they really need to do is split the screen into 2 fields, right? Left and right. That's what they do with Android anyway. Have you ever done Android on a, or done VR on an Android handset? They just split the screen into 2 halves, and then they use lenses to project them onto your eyes. So if you had something like OBS, but then something on the viewer side, which is splitting the received video into 2 fields and pushing them through a VR projector, then you could probably get 3D streaming. There you go. Let's patent that idea. Get some business revenue going. Get some patent revenue going. Okay, this function performs a deep comparison of 2 arrays of JSON values. And we are going to return, but first we'll talk about the param, left-hand side and right-hand side. This is the first array of JSON values to compare. I am very keyboard challenged right now. Return an indication of whether or not the 2 given arrays of JSON values are considered equivalent, or equivalent. Equivalent is returned. What if the values are out of order? It's actually going to consider them not equivalent, because arrays, I guess I would have to say order is important. For objects, I'm not having a concept of order, and so we do it a little bit differently. So you'll see that in a little bit. Actually, I'll show you right now if I can get to it without mistyping. For objects, I do a little bit of a dance where I take all the keys from one map and put it into a set, and then while going through the keys of the second set, if I find one that's not in the first, it doesn't match. Otherwise, I'll remove it from the set we just built, and if after that there are any keys left, then they also don't match. So that means the keys can be in any order in either map, but they have to be a one-to-one mapping. And then I compare the values by looking them up by key. So order doesn't matter, but for array, I guess I made an unconscious decision that order does matter. So here we can just reduce this to say compare the arrays, and it's going to be impl array value, and then other dot impl array value. No bracket needed anymore. Right. And hello, by the way, Mad Fred. So yeah, I'm a little bit delayed from chat. So Shader Toy, I've seen a lot of licenses on things you might write without even thinking of it. Yeah. How's it going, Mad Fred? Let's run our unit test to see that nothing broke. I've been breaking things a lot tonight. And my unit tests have been helping me, because whenever I break something, they start to fail. Which is good. Well, I want to see failures. That means my unit tests are working. Compare JSON objects. And we're going to paste that code here. And it's going to be slightly different. Instead of a vector, we were using a map. And it's mapping from a string to pointer to JSON value. Won't you consider using some industry standard libraries like Qt? For what? Qt, you mean as a library supplying all of the things like JSON? I mean, I could, but the theme of this stream, or this series of streams for me, has been reinvention of the wheel. So I'm just showing writing a complete web server from scratch. And not from complete scratch. I'm allowing the use of the standard C and C++ libraries, but I'm trying to make everything else myself. So it does get a little extreme. In some cases, I'm writing code to do parsing of numbers from strings that have digits in them. So it's a little bit extreme, but it's all for the good of showing how you do it from scratch, I guess. When I get a couple months from now, or maybe just a couple weeks, and I do some web dev, I'm definitely not doing that from scratch. I'll be using something like the React framework from Facebook, or the Angular framework from Google. Are they the ones that make Angular? Or Vue, and I don't remember who makes Vue. But using something like that, and then as many open source libraries out there I can reuse as I can. I don't want to reinvent JavaScript from scratch. So I'm doing the web server in C++, but I'm doing the I'm going to do web dev using JavaScript. Oh, okay. I got confused because I'm using a new chat program for Twitch I'm not so used to. When you get back into graphics, will you do Vulkan? I don't know. I guess it depends on... What does it depend on? Well, if I get back into it soon, probably not. But if I don't get into it for a while, and there are lots more tutorials and examples for Vulkan, I might get into it. I didn't get into Vulkan when I first got into 3D graphics because there was hardly anything out there for Vulkan at the time. This was like years ago. All right. This becomes just LHS, and this is RHS. And isn't there another couple standards out there, like Apple has their own called Metal? And there was something else that was supposed to be Maybe it was a Microsoft version of Vulkan. There's just a lot of stuff out there that I don't know. Is Vulkan really catching on? I know. What was it? Trying to remember the name of the game that was like one of the first games that supported Vulkan. Direct 3D is what I meant to say. Did I say DirectX? I've worked in Direct 3D and OpenGL, and I guess OpenGL ES if you count that, but I haven't gotten into Vulkan or Metal or any of the other newer ones yet. Okay, this is our LHS dot. And this is RHS, I think. Yeah, how come it didn't like that? It doesn't want string? Eh? When it comes to games, you go straight into something with more level support like Unreal Engine or Unity. Oh, yeah. I would consider Direct3D or OpenGL or Vulkan or Metal as very, very low level, like if you're going to make your own graphics engine or game engine. But yeah, I kind of am starting to agree with you, Madfred. If you're gonna write games, unless you're really into making your own engine, I would also start with something like Unity or Unreal, because then you can focus on the creative side and not have to be drawing your own graphics all the time. Okay, I'm looking at this and I'm a little confused because it says the index operator doesn't take. Oh, hold on. No. Is it that it needs me to do this? No. Hmm. What does it not? Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, so it doesn't like that the map is constant, and index doesn't work on a const map, does it? So how did I do this before? Compare array. Compare JSON array. Fine. Oh, the other is const, but we're using its implementation object, which is obtainable through a unique pointer. So we're able to get around the constness. So, I suppose it's okay to drop the const there. Or we can just do, we'll just do this. We've already verified that the keys are all the same. So we'll say other entry equals RHS.find it first. And we don't even need to check const auto. We don't even need to check that it's in the map or not. We'll just use it. So that will be this other entry second. I'm reading chat. I just see it as two different levels of programming. Something like OpenGL, that's very low level and very concerned with the drawing aspect. But if you go up to something like Unity or Unreal, then I think you're more interested in making the overall game. And you could be doing both, right? You could have your own custom OpenGL inside Unity or Unreal, I think. Although you kind of be needing to support all the underlying engines, or all the underlying graphics APIs, right? So if you did some work in OpenGL, but you wanted it to run in Unity or Unreal, you'd have to do the Direct3D and maybe even the Vulkan ports as well. Okay, so I defined this. I'm just not using it yet. And there's where we use it. So return compare objects, impl object value, and other dot impl object value. Alright, so we've cleaned that up. And I can now, I think I'm okay collapsing all the white space there so it looks nice. Reasonably nice. Oh. How did I miss that? We didn't catch the fall through cases. I do that bug a lot where when I refactor and I leave out the fall through case. Let's check that in. Refactoring. Extract compare JSON arrays and compare JSON objects functions. Commit. Oop. Stage it. Commit. Push. I'm still seeing kind of a long stream delay, but at least my bandwidth is only a third of what it was yesterday. I was streaming at 6 megabit, now I'm only streaming at 2. I think the big thing is I reduced it from 60 FPS to 20. Since I'm not playing a game here, no one really will notice that much, hopefully. Yeah, no errors. So, next on the list. We've done the refactoring of comparison. Pretty printing, I guess. And then I wanted to play around with initializer list construction. Pretty printing. So what do we want there? Something like this. So I have a complicated one around here somewhere. That's not complicated enough. I want one that has nested arrays in it, like this one. And we need to make one of those options things, because that's how I'm going to control it. What I want to say is options dot pretty is true. I actually had trouble doing frustum culling. The problem I had was when it was in my Minecraft clone, and I would swing the camera very fast. On the edges of the scene, I would see missing geometry because I had culled it too late, especially if the camera was swinging, because I had a delay in rendering by a frame. I can't remember why, but if you would swing the camera too fast, you'd see the edges of the world, so to speak, because of the missing geometry. Assert equal, and then we're going to have a nice string here to kind of emphasize that how it should look, and then JSON.to encoding options. Yeah, about the mesh techniques to merge squares at different mesh detail level. I saw a really good article on that a while ago. That kind of stuff is in the category of things that make 3D graphics cool, I think. Where 3D graphics kind of makes use of algorithms. And I had a conversation with someone a while ago. Like, when they teach students algorithms, why don't they do it with 3D graphics? Because if you just teach them the algorithms on as if like it's just a bunch of math, it's so boring. But if you apply it immediately to something cool or visual like 3D graphics, it's so much more interesting. I don't understand that, why they don't. Algorithms teachers don't use visualization techniques like 3D graphics rendering to explain their algorithms. Okay, so what we want this to look like is bracket and then new line, and then let's say we want everything indented 4 spaces, and then some white space, and then empty string, I guess, is what we decided to do next. The handles. And here's where I want to do some more indenting. Although maybe this is extreme. I'll refine this as I go because this might be a little bit too wacky. Maybe what we want to do, instead of doing extreme indent 1 line per value like this, is we'll indent if the overall object would have been too long. So that would be, we'll keep it like that otherwise. How about we do that? That shouldn't be too hard to do. Okay. Let's say options indentations 4. And we'll say options what I want to do is give it a value for like how much it can, you know, do this before it decides to break it up. How about we'll call that wrap threshold. I want to make sure it doesn't wrap too aggressively here. So how many characters is that? Roughly 30. So 40. Because I want it to wrap these. Actually, I want it to be a little bit more aggressive. We'll play around with this. So let's first things first, let's go define those options. Bool pretty. And size T indentation. Just typing some random numbers there. This flag indicates whether or, whoa, how did that get typed? Whether or not to add white space to line up and indent nested structures when encoding JSON values. Vlows values. If pretty printing is enabled, and an element of an array or object is wrapped to a new line. This is the number of spaces to indent it from the spaces of or relative to its parent. That's what we'll say. Wrap threshold. The pretty printing is enabled. This is the maximum length to allow for any one line before breaking up a line into between elements of an array or object. There we go. So of course this won't work, and one reason is I have an extra line there, but still it's not going to pretty print. So here's what we got, which was a big mess. Oh no, this is the unformatted one, and then Google Test graciously gives us a diff. So this is what we expect to see, the pretty printing, and what we actually got is it's all in one line. Oh, and we need to clear that re-encode, because it started out as being encoded. We need to force that it's re-encoded. So yeah, see, now there's absolutely no white space. So the whole thing about pretty printing is to add white space to make it look good. Oh, let's do that. So, to encoding. How are we going to do this? I think what we should do is leave alone null, boolean, string, integer, floating point, and basically operate on array and object. And it's within these for loops. We'll have to kind of track how long we're making the line, and also we'll want to kind of pass along our current indentation level between to encoding and then when we call a nested to encoding. So I think we'll need to encoding to be given an indentation level. Indentation level, and we'll just default it to 0. Or maybe I should make that part of the options actually. Yeah, let's do that. Indentation level. And we'll rename this one to be unambiguous. Spaces per indentation level. Indentation, num indentation levels. This is the number of levels of nesting to assume that the JSON value is to assume is located, under which the number of levels of nesting under which to assume the JSON value is located. It's used to compute the actual number of spaces to indent in order to show the values elements at the correct depth. I almost spelled corrupt depth. Hey JD, how's it going? We've got some 3D graphics and game engine talk in the background or foreground, depending on your perspective. But I'm working on pretty printing in JSON, and right now I'm looking for that kind of output, and I'm not yet doing it. So we're adding the code to do that kind of thing. It looks even better if the backslash encoding is hidden, like if we're actually going to print that out, but you get the idea. I think I said this earlier today. We figured out that there were 6 kinds of people who watch program streams, or streams of people doing computer programming. 1, people who are interested in the actual project or code and are kind of watching the coding. 2 is people who like the sound of typing in the background, which is kind of soothing. 3, so people who like the chatter to be in the background, kind of like background ambience. 4 is bots, 5 was trolls, and 6 was, I forget. I know we had 6 though. Should write that down somewhere. Alright, so I initialized that, right? Yeah, so what we want to do here is when we're calling this recursive call, we're going to increase the indentation level. So auto nested options equals options, and nested options dot num indentation levels increment that guy. You can be classified as a troll? Well, that remains to be seen, right? All right, yeah. You will see. Yes, I am easily trolled, so please don't exploit that too much. Okay, so we have to make a decision about whether or not to do indenting. So I think what we need to do is first assemble the whole array. I know, we'll assemble it in 2 strings. One is the encoding, and then we'll have the alternative encoding, which is 1 thing per line. And yeah, that's what we'll do. So string wrapped encoding. And we really only need to worry about that in a couple places, right? Well, let's always construct it because the cost is pretty low. So if it's not the first, we're going to add a comma and then a new line, and then we're going to want to add a number of spaces equal to, well, actually we can pre-calculate that. So here, standard string indentation. I can't remember, so I'm going to look it up in my manual. CPP, it's one of the string constructors, basic string. I want the one that repeats 1 character n times. Okay, yeah, here it is. So it's the count and then the character. So count will be nested options dot num indentation levels times nested options dot spaces per indentation level, and then space. We're dealing with strings, right? Yeah, okay, good. That's really long, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do this because I'm just a freak and I like to do that. So the later it gets, the more silly my explanations of what I'm doing become, by the way. So after every new line, we're going to add the indentation if we're wrapping. And up here too, the wrapped encoding, we can begin The wrapped encoding is going to be if we have to wrap it, right? Is that plus indentation new line. Oh, we have to have, yeah. I'm just pausing to think. We need nested indentation and then indentation. Let's put that before, actually. So right here, wrapped encoding plus equals nested indentation, and then, oh, we only need to calculate this once. Const auto encoded value. And that should be nested options. And we're going to add it to both. Like that. Oh, okay. JD, see ya. I know you said that 3 minutes ago, but I'm a little bit behind in chat. Feel free to lurk. I just want to make sure I get this spacing right. To get something like this, well, for arrays, we have to do it for objects too. It's that, and then the first line is going to have the nested indentation added to it, and then the value, and then if there's another one, it's a comma new line. But if it's the last one, what do we do? The last one we want to, yeah, we want to add a new line and then the bracket. So it's like this: wrapped encoding plus equals the new line and then the bracket. Yes. So now we need to make the decision. And I think what it is, it's pretty easy. If options dot pretty print pretty and the encoding, what? Encoding, it's a little wrong because it's the length of a C++ string, which it's UTF-8 encoded. So we might wrap a little bit early if it's got international characters. How concerned am I about that? Not very. It doesn't have to be exact. If it's greater than options dot wrap threshold, basically, then we'll just replace it. Whoops. Encoding, we replace it with the wrapped encoding. Yeah, well, that's what, matter of fact, that's what I've been trying to avoid earlier in the day today. Was I'm using a UTF-8 decoder and then doing a lot of the actual decoding, the JSON, using Unicode code points. So, for example, when we're parsing an integer, we've already decoded it to code points. And hopefully that should avoid some issues. I have unit tests in here to catch some stuff like that. I even have poop in here. And handling different kinds of JSON encodings. So like if it's outside the basic multilingual planes, you have to use a surrogate pair. And I have a Greek example in here. That's encoded. So hopefully it's Unicode safe or international character safe. Just the pretty printing, the threshold you set, it's not going to be that number of characters. It'll be that number of bytes, really. I think that's fine. So we need to do the same thing for objects. So we'll have nested objects. We'll have nested. Oh, I got something wrong here, didn't I? For this one, it's got to be the unnested indentation. So indentation, and then add that. That's important. Most JSON libraries you know really don't handle Unicode. That's kind of sad. I guess the reason I say that is there's this really cool page. If you type in what every engineer should know about Unicode, the absolute minimum every software developer absolutely positively must know about Unicode. And you look when it was posted, 2003. So we're in 2018 right now. So that's 15 years it's been since all developers should really have gotten the message about how to handle international character sets. So anyone who makes a JSON library that doesn't handle Unicode, forward them that link. Okay, I need indentation to not have the nested levels in it. Just normal indentation. So that's normal options. This I'm probably going to want to refactor into another method for array and another method for object as well. Let's copy this stuff. This kind of goes here. Only it's a brace instead of a bracket. Yeah, maybe the push to support Unicode might not be for international character sets, but emojis. Right? Emojis will help spur correct coding of Unicode. Okay, so I need to embed some of this logic in here. And this stuff. Oh. All of this stuff. The key is not going to be wrapped, so it doesn't matter, but we'll do nested options anyway. And we'll make this the encoded value. Centered string encoded value equals, or I guess it's const auto. This plus this plus this. Right, and then last but not least, we need this, not that, but all of this stuff after we add the brace down here. It's a bit there's a lot of similarity between an array and object pretty printing, isn't there? Let's see what that looks like. Okay, see you, said Who12. Thanks for coming by. $53. I missed a bit of that chat. Sorry, I was trying to catch up. Okay, okay, it's not indentation. I renamed that, right? It was spaces per indentation level. So this is probably not going to work at all, but let's see what it does. Actually, we got pretty close. It reordered the keys, though, didn't it? I guess I'm not that surprised. It put them in alphabetical order, so we just need to do the same. T comes after I, yes. And there's a comma here and here, but not here. Okay, let's see if that matches now. Not quite. So what's different? Oh, I didn't put white space. Yeah, we should probably do that. So 2 places where we need the white space if we're pretty printing would be here. So we're gonna, I know, what we'll do is say if nested options dot pretty, then it's colon space. Otherwise, it's just colon. And after the comma also. Here. And we'll need the same thing for about arrays, right? Right here. There we go. Okay, what changed there? Did I not get everything right? Oh, it's the very last line. Okay, so I didn't put a character return at the end. I suppose there isn't. Cool. So I'm just thinking, do we want more unit tests? I guess we should have one for arrays. So that's object. Make one for arrays, I guess. Do I have a long array? I think I do, somewhere back here. Maybe not. Oh, we could take something like absurd like this. And let's make it very aggressive. So we'll say we'll allow up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll allow up to 6 characters. If you don't mind a personal question, what do you get out of streaming? That's okay to ask, I suppose. I've answered that a couple weeks ago. My answer is I've done a lot of programming both at my work, which I've been there a long time, and even before that, and during that, just doing hobby stuff. But most of the time, it's on my own. I have a real hard time at my job right now getting feedback. Everyone seems to be just busy all the time doing their own work, so I never get any feedback. What I noticed other program streams getting is they get community feedback constantly. And so I think what I get out of streaming is your feedback, especially when people tell me ideas or they tell me what I'm doing is looking kind of weird or maybe I need to clean it up. I'm getting a lot of constructive criticism and feedback that I haven't really had the advantage of getting working either at my job or on my own at my hobbies. So if I didn't get any feedback from chat, then, well, I guess I'd still get the advantage of forcing myself to stick to a schedule. So that would be the second thing. I'm forcing myself to stick to a schedule and get organized. So a bit of self-discipline. So those are the top 2. Question, did I get trolls calling me stupid or similar? No, not really. But I suppose that would be a third reason to stream, is to help myself develop a thick skin. I think that's really important, to be able to just kind of shake things off. And you really don't get to grow a thick skin until you get called names and you're told that you're wrong, and you learn how to deal with that. So although I hope that that doesn't happen too much, I'll look on the bright side and say that getting called stupid or similar will help me grow a thicker skin. I guess another, if I'm listing reasons, I would push the growing a thick skin down to number 4, and for number 3, I would say what I get out of streaming would be people who come by and have questions about programming. I love to try to answer them, whether it's a puzzle or if I'm trying to help them learn something. I get enjoyment out of that. So, yeah. I kind of feel like I've set up shop in front of a busy street and I'm doing my thing on my computer, and once in a while someone will stop by and say, hey, either I got a question, you're a programmer, maybe you can answer that, or they say, hey, that looks cool, can you tell me about it? So I don't know, it's fun. Okay, I was gonna make a very aggressive wrap threshold for this. This is sort of gonna be an absurd example, but the overall array will wrap, definitely. What's my take on modern C++? I worked on C++, the ancient version, what would you call it, C++ 98, for like years and years. And I always hated how like cryptic some of the language had to be. Then when I saw what they were doing in C++, what was it called back then, OX, and then C++ 11, I saw how they were starting to take really cool concepts from more modern languages like Python and C# and Java and all that, and putting it back to C++, and I thought that was really a good idea, and I really needed to learn that. So my take would be, I'm glad I learned it, and I hope to help other people learn it, because it's time to get out of the dark ages of the old C++ that was really a pain in the ass, and learn it to write better code. So definitely useful. You can take anything to an extreme, so use it in moderation. I think it's a lot easier to read modern C++ code if it's written not to an extreme, but just written well. Was that too long of an answer? Let's see. Okay, 1. So we're going to make everything start on its own line, but we'll try to see if that fits. Actually, I already know I'm going to run into problems because of the indentation. Variadrix. I would put that in the category of going to an extreme. Yeah, variadic templates. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant, so I don't know how to do that stuff. I would say that C++ is a big enough language that's got room for everyone, including the people who really enjoy weird language constructs, and that's fine. They can enjoy that. I don't really have interest in that stuff. I might get into that weird language niche when I start doing Lambda functions, but I just think that those are awesome. So my challenge is to write code that uses Lambda functions in a way that it actually can be read by other people. And I know at work I've been having that as a big problem lately. I start writing code that uses Lambda functions, and people are like, I can't read that code at all. So yeah, what do you think about the extreme? Okay, you can't really see it in my tests, but I'm pretty out there in terms of indentation, aren't I? I know because I'm constantly fighting every editor I use: Visual Studio, VS Code, Xcode. I can't find an editor yet that completely is happy with the way I indent things. Did he call him insane? I know there's like a lot of wacky proposals out there. I don't know if this is true, but my feeling is that in the recent success of stuff getting added to C++ and like C++ 17, it opened the doors for like people to say, hey, yeah, we can add stuff too. Let's just put all of the wacky ideas we come up with and try to push them through. That sounds familiar. I might have even read this one. Yeah, I remember reading this. Definitely. Yep. That's a good article. Definitely recommend you guys read that, what MadFred posted there. I think that wasn't the punchline, or what it boils down to is the standardization process could go either way. Like you could get really crazy stuff added to the language, or it could just take so long for them to weed out all those ideas. You participated in one of those. Wow, I'm impressed. I've heard that those standards meetings can be crazy. Either crazy or like extremely dull. Yeah. Does variadic templates fall in that category? Complicated features for experts? I've never needed to use variadic templates, and I've done all sorts of different programming, so my challenge to anyone who likes variadic templates is give me a reasonable real-world use case for it. Because I'd like to know if there is one, and maybe I should have been using it for something and I just didn't know. Okay, so this is what we get if we've we'll get at least this, but I think this is going to be too aggressive, because what I want to do is I want this one to wrap, but not this one. So how many characters is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's allow 9, but no more, because I want this one to break up. This is what I want to see. An additional indent for these as sort of an emphasizing that threshold where one of them ends up getting wrapped and then the others don't. That's what I want to see. Make code less optimizable, so that's a bad thing. I laugh because I can just imagine all the people that put poor time into making variadic templates a reality, and the conclusion is, well, you can use it if you want to make your code less optimizable. It'd be like defeat. Okay, so oh, I forgot we had to do that. Yes, we have to do that. Is that the only thing? And this one did not get wrapped. Is that because that's under my threshold? It should have been over it. Let's see. Okay, so it decided not to wrap it because I wonder if it's not counting the indentation. It's possible. So the encoding, oh yeah, the encoding is not including the encoding needs to include that. So let's build it into that. That's options dot. Oh, we can put it on the right hand side. No, it's better to put it on the left hand side. Dot. Oh, no, we already pre-calculated this, didn't we? No, we didn't. It's this one, which we can say is indentation dot length. Yeah, so let's do that in both array and object. Okay, I need to relax the threshold slightly because I wanted that one not to. I think it's because I counted this before I put the space in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we want that to just scrape by. There we go. So let me catch up on chat a little bit. Oh, are you reading from the article still? Let me know if there's another link. Or if it's in that main. Let me bookmark that, by the way, in my notebook. I'm trying to get into the habit of whenever I get a link that has something interesting that I make a bookmark for it. And what is this? Straustrup. There. Oh, you have another link. And this one was about compiler optimization. Yeah, okay. That way also anyone who misses the stream and wants to look at random interesting material can see it in my notebook too. Cool. I'll watch that offline sometime. Much appreciated, by the way. Okay, I'm gonna check this code in. And then we can move on. We can call pretty printing done for now, although it would be the right thing to do would be to count Unicode code points and not characters, but I suppose that wouldn't be too hard to do. We just have to do the decoding and then count the decoded code points. Add pretty printing for JSON to encoding. Hi, OOTSB. Are you going with DOM or SAX style approach? This is definitely going to be DOM. It's consuming the whole object before it gives you any part of it. That's the definition of DOM, right? And the object model is defined. Where did I define that? I think I defined it in the implementation here. Right here. So the JSON implementation can have inner JSON, outer, let me start over again. A JSON's implementation can have arrays or dictionaries or maps containing other JSON objects. So this is the document object model. And one thing I'm not too happy about this is I decided to use union, which might have been a premature optimization because it forced me to use raw pointers because I'm not enough of a wizard in C++ to know how to put complex types like standard string inside a union. If anyone actually knows how to do something like that and make it work, I'd be curious to know. I'm having to use raw pointer to avoid issues with construction and destruction. I already have to do some dispose pattern stuff here because of those pointers, and I don't like it. You can only put pod types inside a union, yeah. Well, conceptually, I would think this should be allowed as long as you are allowed to fully specify its construction. So in the constructor, if I explicit and I say only construct this one or only construct this one, and then in the destructor handle the reverse of that, I don't see why the compiler wouldn't be able to allow that. But shortcoming of C++, I suppose. And who knows? Maybe they have something in C++20 to fix that, so to speak. All right, let me go back up. I do this periodically just in case I accidentally touch a file in another folder and forget to check it in or undo it. Okay, nothing has changed elsewhere. Everything's pushed. So let's move. I'm going to move on in my notebook to see what do I have after pretty printing. Initializer list constructor. Oh, this is a fun one. I like this. I think I'll stick with the plan and I'll make this the last thing for the stream tonight. I'll be streaming tomorrow noon Pacific. But this will probably take me an hour, so we're not ending quite yet. Boost. You know, I've been avoiding Boost for years. I had a friend who was like telling me I should look into it, but I think what scared me away from Boost even now is the thing is such a huge toolbox, right? Don't use it. I figure if I wait, all the good stuff from Boost will end up in the STL or the, what do they call it? libc++ now. Yeah, the header only library components I can dig. It's all the baggage that would come to building something huge when I only need a small part. That's what I don't like. Okay, so we're going to add JSON array initializer list. do we want to do it for arrays or objects? I think we want to do it with both. And one will be a special kind, which takes a list of pairs. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So the idea is you make one of these, and you use initializer list syntax, and you say something like 42, hello, world, and true. And then what you'd expect is assert equal array 42 comma hello world comma true end array if you ask the JSON to encode itself, right? What you're saying is that you can use the general architecture of Boost Any? Let me look at that. Let's look at that really briefly. Oh, using a template. Isn't there something in C++ 20 or 17 called variant? Didn't they try to add this in as variant? I know there's been variant in Microsoft's COM forever. I get laughed at work for whenever I try to use it. Oh, see, there they could talk about variant. Variant can only store one of a set of types. Any can store any type. There's a small example. Let me bookmark this for later because I'm actually having trouble concentrating because it's so late. So let me say check out later. Boost any pattern. Yeah, apologies, I can't give it my full attention right now. Oh, they've added, okay, they added variant in C++ 17. Yeah, that's what I seem to remember. I'm not comfortable enough going beyond C++ 11. Mostly because I'm still trying to unlearn all my bad habits from C++ 98. Okay, so this won't build because it's going to tell me exactly why. There's no constructor that matches that list. So here's where we do the initializer list constructor to save the day. One problem is I'm hoping it doesn't make my other constructors ambiguous. It is standard initializer list of other JSON objects. So JSON, const, I guess. And, or does it just have to be that? Can I make references? Args. Embedded compilers don't support anything post. Well, that's a good sign, though. Not too long ago at my work, they were telling us you can't use C++ because not all the compilers we use can support C++ at all. So they still use C, believe it or not. Although that's not saying that C is bad. It's just you had no choice. Okay, this still says I can't use that. Why is that? That fix it up? Yep, that fix. So I can't use reference, but I can use pass by value arguments. That's fine. This constructs a JSON. Okay, I really shouldn't say object here because object is a special kind of JSON value. I'm just fixing the language here. I don't want the names to be used ambiguously or I don't want them to be used incorrectly. So in the context of this library, object is something that means something special. It's the one with curly braces. Value is the general term. Constructs a JSON array containing copies of the elements in the given initializer list. These are the values to copy into the new array. Alright, so let's implement that guy. We will need to, again, make our implementation object and do that. This should compile and just not pass our tests yet. Right, we get invalid JSON empty string, so that's what I expected. So here we go. Type is array. And let me just look this up because I'm still kind of a newbie when it comes to initializer list. Initializer list. Okay, you can call size, begin, and end, and you use it like an iterator. Yeah, that's what I kind of remembered, but I wasn't sure. So it's for, well, we can pre-allocate actually, and we should. So that's standard vector shared pointers to JSON. And we will pre-allocate it to be args.size 4. And we're going to need to remember where we are. For auto it equals args.begin. How about you'll call it arg. Arg. Arg is not equal to args end. Plus plus arg plus plus index. Impl array value dereference. Go to index equals arg, or dereference arg, right? Does that work? Oh, it's a shared pointer, so we do make shared JSON, and then we pass it the arg. There we go. I think that's all we need to do. So isn't that cool? We can just simply write it almost the same that it really is in JSON, only it's curly braces, and it basically works like we expect. So let's do that for an object. So it's a little bit different here. We're going to be passing in pairs, so how about name Joe? Oh no, I need to use Twitch memes. Pepe. Happiness level feels good man. And enough memes false. Oh hey Mad Fred again. Oh, you have to go, I'm assuming. Thanks for coming by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. And let's make it a little bit more complex. Because we have the initializer list constructor, we should be able to do something like this, keys, and then we should be able to have an embedded initializer list, 42 and 19, right? And what we expect out of that would be curly brace, and we're going to have to rewrite all this stuff, so it's going to be name, Pepe, comma, happiness level, comma, or yeah, a colon, feels good man, comma, enough memes, colon false, and keys, colon bracket 42 comma 19 end bracket. That's a mouthful. It might be easier to read if I turn on pretty printing. That should not have built, so I'm actually curious what it does. Oh, I see what it did. It made each of these an array with 2 elements in it. So what happens if what I was originally intending to do was make an initializer of pairs of strings. I think this will now pick it up because this will be a more, not a more, but a closer match to what we're doing. So to confirm that, I should get a linker error. Oh, I got a compiler error. More than one instance. Okay, so it's not able to deduce which one to pick. It's ambiguous. So how do we disambiguate that? Probably by using something closer like const char. Let's see if this works. Const char. No. Do we actually have to say pair and all this garbage to disambiguate it? I hope not. Okay, yeah, that did disambiguate it, but it's not. Yeah, we get the linker error. I don't want to have to do that garbage, though. I want it to deduce the type for me without it being ambiguous. Excuse me. Well, we can kind of cheese it, I suppose. We can do this. Type def, that is called just a one-letter thing, like X or something. I thought it just gave it one. Interesting. Oh, yeah. It's still too much garbage to have to list, though. Might have to give up on initializer list for objects unless I can think of a way to not have it not be ambiguous. Yeah, I think I'll give up on this for now. We will just leave this out. I'll have to play around with that and try to figure out, oh, that's interesting. I was in the wrong directory, but it still worked. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay, so I did make some changes. Oh, I forgot to check that in. Okay, good thing I caught that, because I wanted to check that in separately anyway. Add initializer list constructor for easier array construction. So yeah, I'll have to revisit this. I'll put this in my notebook too. Revisit how to use initializer list construction to make JSON objects without it being ambiguous. Without usage being ambiguous. Since without usage without the ambiguity problem. Ambiguity. Alright. So we'll revisit that later. We've gotten to the end of my plan and it is midnight for me, so I'll probably wrap up the stream now. Let's do a little recap. So yesterday, around this time, I had gotten a start on the JSON library and gotten some of what I was calling parsing, but really it's decoding JSON. Today, during the day stream, I got pretty much all of it done. Yeah, all of the main encoding and decoding of JSON done. And then tonight, I basically fixed up some loose ends and did some pretty printing, some refactoring, and an extra constructor, which is a nice one that's easier to read. And there are some things like I'd like to make another initializer list constructor for JSON objects. This is arrays and objects. So we did the one for JSON arrays, but we tried to do the one for JSON objects and it becomes ambiguous with the JSON arrays one. So that's sort of like a loose end. I'll try to figure out how to do that. If I can find a way, I'll do that next stream. Otherwise, I think for the next stream, we'll move back to doing the web server stuff. I'll be using this JSON class in the web server to persist or save its configuration to a file and then load it back on startup. And then later we'll be also using JSON for decoding the messages that come back on WebSockets. And then, of course, the other directions, when we send messages over a WebSocket, we'll be encoding with JSON. So it'll be useful in at least two cases. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow noon Pacific, probably to work on the web server again and try to make use of this JSON class in the web server. So let's see. By the time we get this late, there aren't a whole lot of people still streaming. There's one guy, a guy who does pixel art, who I'll definitely recommend if you're into learning how to do pixel art. I watch him because I think it's fascinating and I'm learning a lot from that, but it's a little bit different from programming. If pixel artistry sounds interesting, then stay tuned. I'll just post us over there for a while. Otherwise, I'll just see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.